Hello. I don't need this Blades of Sigil thing anymore. We're doing something different. How's it going? I'm just gonna move... Can I move this? I want to move this source. Because I have my new mic. Move up? Vertical layout? No. I just want to be able to see the mic all the time. Happy time zone. Let me add a source, a window capture. And yes, we're doing this one, but we're gonna narrow it down. I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. Here we are. Look at this. It's a thing. So, the Unearthed Arcana dropped today, just right now. Possibly earlier today, but I wasn't awake earlier, so here we are. So this is Unearthed Arcana 2022. It's the second packet. For folks that are not familiar, D&D, or the people that make D&D at Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro, were like, we're not doing another edition. We're just doing a complete update of how the game works. And we swear that it will be backward compatible. So it's kind of like D&D as a service, like maybe moving toward a software model. My guess that I kind of agree with a lot of people who have already been doing analysis here is that what we'll probably see is there will be 2024 Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and Dungeon Master's Guide, and those will supersede the 2014 Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. And so people will refer to Player's Handbook 2014 or Player's Handbook 2024. Understandable. It's been 10 years. 5e is not the best designed system in the world. Yeah, I hope that One D&D is just a placeholder name. My guess is that they will just call it D&D, or it will be the 2024 update. Yeah, I don't want, like, D&D should not feel like work for as many people as possible. I may be making maybe reworking my professional life such that D&D is also work. But that's really just in pursuit of being able to broaden the horizons of people who have only experienced D&D and entice, encourage, and support them in finding other TTRPGs in their lives that they may enjoy as well, so that life can be good for them and enjoy the multiplicity of what TTRPGs have to offer, because it's good stuff. So this update, I watched the video for this that they introduced yesterday, and they talked about, okay, we're going to have class categories again. This is a thing that used to exist in D&D. So now we're going back to having class groups. So this packet focuses on the experts. The Artificer is also an expert, but the Artificer is not going to appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook, is what they seem to be indicating. So we have Bard, Ranger, and Rogue. Experts are polymaths who have the expertise feature and other elements of other classes. So they're defining this set of classes as these are people who have expertise, so they get bonuses in skills, and they are kind of a catch-all. They are kind of catch-all classes, or hybrid classes. Bard has elements of hi Triffity Mats. This is not campaign prep. This is all me looking at new playtest material for One D&D. So no spoilers about any of the games from yesterday. Thank you for checking, but you're totally fine. So yeah, Bards are kind of a hybrid class. Ranger are like, you could position Ranger is fighter druid or fighter cleric, more like fighter druid. And Rogue is really its own thing. They have expertise for sure. they have elements of other classes, kind of fighting classes. The thing about rogue is that rogue or thief has such a history in D&D that it really is its own thing to me in a greater way than bard or ranger. Ranger in D&D is just the strider class. Like, it's straight up. It is, people saw Strider / Aragorn, and by saw I mean read, in The Lord of the Rings, are like, that dude's cool. I want to be him. I want to tromp through the woods and fight with two swords. I don't actually remember when the two weapon thing came into Ranger. It either came with or was super popularized by Dritz Do'Urden in Forgotten Realms. So we're talking about experts. The other groups are mages, which is sorcerer, warlock, wizard, adepts of arcane magic, focusing on utility and destruction. Okay. Priests, cleric, druid, paladin, stewards of divine or primal magic, focusing on healing, utility, and defense. Interesting that paladin they talk about as healing, utility, and defense, when paladins in the 2014, like the current D&D, are the ultimate burst damage, or are very high burst damage melee fighters. Rogues can also do great burst damage with sneak attack, but paladins are that like aggro tank, off tank character. Barbarian, fighter, and monk are the warrior classes, masters of combat who can deal and endure many wounds. Monks are a little bit squishier than the others, but they do have like some damage avoidance abilities in deflect arrows and things like that. Being able to use the special resource pool to like get better dodge and things like that. Yesterday I talked some about why monk is problematic, because you'll notice here these are mostly westerny looking terms, and then we have monk, and they don't mean a dude with a tonsure. They don't mean a holy scholar. They mean East Asian monk because of Orientalism, right? Like, that's how the monk is depicted. It's weird. It has, for me, never fully been accommodated for as why we have this class that is so unlike the others in its cultural influences with regards to earth cultures. Monks who makes for Angelico. Yeah, right. Iori, have you seen the movie The Gamers or The Gamers 2? They do jokes about Occidental monks in that one, which I appreciated. You could also do what if you did monk cleric multiclass and did a cleric of like a beer god or a brewing god, and you could be a Trappist monk, and then you like hit people with kegs or something, or you have like a really sturdy metal magic stein that you pop people, and then you pull back the lid thing and you drink some beer. Maybe that's how you do drunken master monk in a Western fashion. So that could be kind of funny. So that's this. So let's go back to the top here, because we talked through the class categories. So this is the second one. In the video, they say that this Unearthed Arcana supersedes the previous Unearthed Arcana. So if you are wanting to play a One D&D Unearthed Arcana game, what you should do is have this document front and center, and have the other one for reference for places where this new one does not contradict the former one. That's how they're talking about it. So we have 3 spell lists: Arcane, Divine, and Primal. The Ranger uses the Primal list, and the Bard potentially uses all 3 thanks to the Magic Secrets feature. Okay, I was curious about that because of the way that the 2014 Bard spell playlist was really different than other classes in terms of crossing these categories. Playtest material, character origins. So character origins was like the player species options, which they call races. incorporate it into a campaign. You know, this is kind of how you're going to use this. This may or may not be more or less powerful. Here's the way to give feedback. So what I am doing now is not the optimal form of feedback that they want. They want people to fill out their playtest form. So what I'm going to say to folks who are watching is, if you have feelings and thoughts about the stuff that we're going to talk about today, or when you read through this on your own, the thing that is most likely to get back to the designers is to fill out that form. So if you wanted to say, for instance, give them feedback about how they should stop using the term race for describing character origins, you could do that. They have 48 subclasses. I'm not going to read through all of this exhaustively, I don't think. Okay, they don't have 48 subclasses in this packet. This packet is 37 pages. That would be preposterous to get 48 subclasses in 37 pages while also getting other stuff. So, parts of a class. Primary ability, creating a member of the class. This all looks pretty familiar to me. I could like go through it with a comb, but I'm not as interested in that. Some 3 class highlights this is good. All 3 classes have new features as well as revised versions of old features. When a class offers a decision, a suggested choice is usually presented, especially at lower levels. This makes it easy to create characters quickly. They also talked in the video about how it is that this is designed to be easier for new players. So folks that don't have the experience to like read and evaluate a bunch of options or don't want to do that, you know, okay, start with this, you'll probably do fine. Blades in the Dark does this where the first special ability in every playbook that is listed is kind of a suggested first ability. This type of design I think is very handy. It is very like conceptually accessible, like ease of use accessibility as opposed to capital A accessibility with regards to disability. And each class's old 20th level feature has been moved to 18th level, opening up 20th level for epic boons. So the epic boon, there's like a whole list of epic boons in like the DMG. I went and found them yesterday. I don't know if they're going to be referenced here. So we start the experts with the Bard, my favorite, because, well, I am who I am. I am, as Yoy sometimes says of himself, a parody of myself. But I like to think of it as just being authentically who I am and being on my bullshit. So Bard, primary ability charisma, still the same thing. Invoking magic through music, magic, and verse. Inspiring others. Words of creation. Okay, so this is like the cosmological framing for bardic magic is words of creation. Almost anything can inspire a new song or tale. Wide-ranging knowledge. It can be hard to tell the difference between a performer and a bard. A bard's life is spent wandering around the land, gathering lore, telling stories, and living on the gratitude of audiences. But bards' depth of knowledge, musical skill, and mastery of magic sets them apart. Sure. So we've got our class breakdown. Spells still go up to 9th level. Bards do not get a ton at these higher levels. Proficiency bonus, this scaling looks like it's the same. We start with Bardic Inspiration and Spellcasting. D6 up to a D12 for the Bardic die. Cantrips. We have a level here at level 17 where you get nothing. And you get nothing at 13. That seems like bad design. I remember in 3rd edition, a lot of people complained that there were a number of classes where you would gain a level, and the only thing you'd get as a spellcasting class is new spells. I see that in these cases, when you get no class feature, you do get access to one spell of the next level. So at 13th level, the class feature you gain is I can cast a 7th level spell, and then again at level 17, the class feature that you gain is effectively I can cast a 9th level spell. Because, let's see, yeah, because subclass features are mentioned here. So that's curious. I wonder whether the other classes are also going to have kind of an empty space on class features at 13 and 17. Again, this is all playtest material, so it can change. Subclass still kicks in at 3, feat at level 4. So let's go down here. Creating a bard. Suggested starting stuff. Light armor. Still a d8 hit die. We still have the average hit points of 5 per level plus constitution modifier. You need 13 in charisma to multi-class into bard. Bard class features. Bardic Inspiration. So this is the basically the one thing I looked at before going live because I was curious. Like I just got into stuff and I was like, okay, yeah, why don't I do a stream? So Bardic Inspiration starts at a d6. You can use your Bardic Inspiration die in the following ways. These are different than 2014 5th edition. Boost a d20 test. When another creature within 60 feet of you that can see or hear fails a d20 test, you can use your reaction to give them a Bardic Inspiration die. They roll that die and add that number to the d20, potentially turning the failure into a success. So this is really different. This is more powerful in that you don't have to use a bonus action ahead of time to give a character Bardic Inspiration. It is more useful in that you, the bard, are the one who has to remember to use it versus the player having to remember to use it when they already have a bunch of other class features and abilities. Something I notice in actual play. Hey, Cafe Claire. When I was playing, and especially when I've been listening to or watching actual play, is that often Bardic Inspiration gets forgotten and not utilized. This means that it's going to be used a lot more. Bards will get use out of their inspiration dice, I think, a lot more often because you use it after the roll. I think the way I would rule this GMing is, oh no, fails a d20 test. So the player knows they have failed. You don't have to guess that the result is insufficient. Now, this wording may rely on the previous UA that I have not read extensively, but my reading here is that it's more like getting to use a luck point, but instead of a reroll, you apply that Bardic Inspiration die, and you add it rolled to the d20, not to the total. Now, this again may be some of the language change that they're doing to streamline, so we may have to go back to that. So that's one option, and again, this is using your reaction to give them the die. They roll the die. So the player that is trying to succeed is the one that rolls the die, so it gives them the agency, like a little bit feels like more it's under their control of like, oh, okay, I've given you a boost, now you're going to use it, as opposed to I roll the d6 and I add it to your thing and I'm the one who made it so that you succeed. I think that this framing is probably good for players who are not the bard, feeling like the bard is helping them rather than the bard is doing the bard is succeeding at the thing for them. In terms of like who's rolling the die, who feels like they have responsibility for success. The other option is heal. Immediately after another creature within 60 feet of you that you can see or hear takes damage, you can use your reaction to roll your Bardic Inspiration die and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled. So again, this is a reaction. So unless there is something that will let a bard have more than one reaction, you're only going to get to do one of these per turn, because characters only get one reaction. But this heal is out of initiative order. It does not take the bard's action, movement, or bonus action. And if I'm interpreting this correctly, a character could get knocked down. And then you could use Bardic Inspiration to pop them back up. There is the question of interpretation of, can an unconscious creature see or hear you? Can an unconscious creature specifically hear you? Because for most humanoids, if you're unconscious, you are not actively seeing. We do have my understanding is that there's some scientific evidence that, people in comas can hear when they're being talked to. If somebody's asleep and you yell at them, it often can wake them up. So that to me leads me to believe that an unconscious creature can hear if they are generally someone who has hearing. So if heal means that you can instantly pop someone up who's been KO'd, that's really powerful. Because it means that they will get to act on their turn because you're reacting when they go down instead of having to wait until it's your action. And they may, if we have the bard, the fighter, and a monster, and the fighter goes, then the monster goes, if the bard goes, then the monster goes, then the fighter goes. Bard takes bard's turn. Monster KOs fighter. And in 2014 bard rules, it's the fighter's turn. The fighter makes a death save. And then the bard's turn, and the bard can bring the fighter back up by using a healing spell. In this rule set, bard goes, monster knocks out fighter. Bard uses a reaction after the fighter has taken the damage that would reduce them to 0 or below, uses the heal, and restores. My understanding is that because of the way that the damage and healing system works, when you take damage brings you to 0. So this heal would not have to not have to overcome the total damage. It will heal you back up from 0 unless they're changing this math. So the fighter has 5 hit points left. The monster deals the fighter 10 damage. Fighter goes from 5 hit points to 0. Bard then uses a reaction to heal, rolls their Bardic Inspiration, heals the fighter up from 0. That's really good. Number of uses. Bardic Inspiration die is expended when rolled. You can confer Bardic Inspiration number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So this is something that they've already, WotC has already been moving to, is using proficiency bonus as the basically your resource set. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You can use something from your species feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And then you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. I don't recall off the top of my head whether the 2014 Bard gets inspiration back at a long rest at level, like from the beginning, and then, because there's a class feature later on that is font of Bardic Inspiration. So at level 7, you start getting your Bardic Inspiration back at a short rest instead of a long rest. So that means from levels 1 through 4, twice per day, you can give that D20 bonus to try to turn a failure into a success, or you can do that reaction heal. The other thing that the reaction heal can do is... No, wait. I'm thinking about disintegration. Could you use the reaction heal to save somebody versus disintegration or power roll kill? I don't think that you can, because those check hit points first. They don't do damage and then check hit points. There may be something that does damage and then checks hit points. So if you have something that does damage and then checks hit points, the bard could theoretically interrupt that second step, depending on your interpretation. So level 5, proficiency goes up to 3, bardic die goes up to a D8. With bounded inspiration, or with bounded accuracy, being able to add this higher level die to a D20 test when you fail seems like it could make up a lot of ground, which is really cool. At higher levels, your die goes up. Spellcasting. So basically suggested prepared spells. Color Spray, Disguise Self, Prestidigitation, and Vicious Mockery. Nice. When you finish a long rest, you can replace any spells prepared. So prepared spells, bards... My recollection of Bard was that you just cast stuff off of a list instead of having stuff prepared. I'm curious whether this is moving to everyone has prepared spells instead of some of the classes having just a spell list they can cast off of, like Sorcerer, where, okay, when you're a wizard, you have to prepare spells, but you have access to a wider range of spells. When you're Sorcerer, you don't have to prepare, but you have a narrower set. Spell slots, charisma, you can use a musical instrument as your spellcasting focus. I also note that bards get, I think, 3 musical instrument proficiencies instead of, I feel like 1 was how it used to work. Deception, performance, persuasion, or any 3 skills of your choice. Bonus to dex and charisma saves. Yeah, that all makes sense. So level 2, you get expertise in 2 of your skill proficiencies. Performance and persuasion are kind of the default suggestions. Level 2, Songs of Restoration. When you reach this level, you can add a specific spell to your Songs of Restoration repertoire. You always have that spell prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. So this broadens your preparation repertoire in this set of Songs of Restoration. So this gives bards more healing support utility, and it means they don't have to sacrifice other prepared spell slots to maintain this utility. So whatever type of bard you are, Songs of Restoration says you retain this support utility. Healing Word, Lesser Restoration, Mass Healing Word, Freedom of Movement, Greater Restoration. So it doesn't, unless there's a later class feature, this caps out at level 10 with Greater Restoration. But Greater Restoration, very handy to have access to, right? Bard subclass. You get a subclass at level 3. Feat, level 4. Jack of all trades, you add half your proficiency bonus round down to any ability check that uses a skill proficiency you lack and doesn't otherwise use your proficiency bonus. So this raises your skill bonus floor as a bard. Subclass feature at level 6. Level 7, you get your bardic back at a short rest. So when you're level 7, your inspiration die is a d8, and you get 3 times. So you go from 3 times per long rest at a d8 at level 6 to 3 times per short rest at with a d8 at level 7. And then from then on, you're getting 4 per short rest, 5 per short rest, 6 per short rest. So once you get Font of Bardic Inspiration, these Bardic Inspiration dice become something they're able to use a lot more frequently. You know, if you're doing maybe 2 encounters per short rest, and each encounter is a combat that lasts 3 rounds, then that's 6 rounds of combat. You have 3 uses of Bardic Inspiration, so every other turn you could be using Inspiration for healing or to boost in a d20 test once you get Font of Bardic Inspiration. That sounds really cool to me. I already really like this change to Inspiration. It feels like it makes it more usable. I think I might miss out on some of the flavor that I see in when people do Bardic Inspiration, where they basically take a little bit longer than reaction time to give that Bard Inspiration. When I played a Bard in 5e, I would do like basically 2 lines of a song when I gave somebody's inspiration, and suggesting what I was going to have them do. If you're doing it as a reaction, theoretically you don't have as much time to do that, but that's going to be, again, this is flavor and it's up to the table. So we get Magical Secrets is now at level 11 instead of level 10. I think it was level 10 in 2014. So subclass at 10, at level 11, Magical Secrets. Choose a spell list, one of these 3 categories. Whenever you prepare spells, up to 2 of the spells can be from that list and from any school of magic. The prepared spells otherwise follow the rules of your Bard spellcasting feature. So there's going to be, okay, here is the Bard spell list. This is the kind of your canon prepared spell list. What do you change? are you starting? We're starting with Arcane, right? Arcane spell. So bards default to the Arcane spell list, but with magical secrets they can either get more from Arcane, or they can dip into Divine or Primal and get 2 spells, and that's of whichever level. So it's not a ton. It feels like their versatility in spell selection has shrunk a bit if kind of the spells get sorted in the ways that I'm expecting. But there's a little bit more clarity in how all of this works, which is, I think, handy. Bard subclass, further magical secrets at level 15. So you get another 2 spells that you can choose from one of these spell lists. So at level 15, you've got your normal bard spell list that you can draw from via Arcane, and then you have 2. You have one pack of 2 that can come from any of the three spell lists, and another pack of 2. So for each time you gain this magical secrets feature, you have to you draw those 2 from one of those spell lists. So I couldn't at level 11 take a divine spell and a primal spell, but I could, if I believe that our game is going to 15th, take 2 from divine and then expect that later on I could take 2 from primal. When I played a 2014 rules bard at level 10, I took, I believe, a paladin spell and a warlock sorcerer spell. I took Eldritch Blast, I think, or like Force Blast, and Aura of Heroism, Aura of Protection. Like, I took the aura that lets people heal as a bonus action. In an aura, which was very handy for utility stuff. So this is a little bit less flexible in some ways, but it's fairly clearly articulated, which is, I think, handy. So level 18, this is the old level 20 capstone power, but it's already better, and it's at level 18. When you roll initiative, you gain 2 expended uses of your Bardic Inspiration. It used to be 1, and it used to be 1 if you have 0. So when you roll initiative, if you have 0, you get 1. Here it is, when you roll initiative, you get 2. So you're level 18, your proficiency bonus is +6. We roll initiative, and I have 3 Bardic Inspiration. I go up to 5. So that's great. Feat at level 19, boon at level 20. So you can change preparation at a long rest. Dagger is always prepared. So these are lesser restoration. So these are the Song of Restoration spells, right? The ones with the little dagger icon. So this is the recommended spells. But then there is a broader spell list. And now we have subclasses. College of Lore. This is the one that I took when I played a bard and we got up to like level 11 or so. So bonus proficiencies, cutting words, which is makes people not hit you, cunning inspiration. So at 6th level, they can roll your Bardic Inspiration die twice and use the higher option, which is very handy. Improved cutting words, you do more damage. When you Peerless skill, when you make an ability check and fail, you can expend a Bardic Inspiration, roll the die, and add it to your. So you can use this for yourself. If the check still fails, the Bardic Inspiration isn't expended. So it looks like you don't even have to use your reaction to this. So you're just Peerless skill. You are all like, if you keep failing, you keep getting to roll that die until it helps you succeed at a check. So that's bards. I think, or I'm going to get through Ranger and Rogue, and then we'll see where we are, see how folks are feeling, and then I may call it there, since this was not a planned stream. I think this stream is going to take the place of the Sunday stream because Meg and I have people coming to visit for the weekend, and I had kind of spaced that when I made my schedule for streaming earlier this week. And it would probably be good to spend as much of that time as we can with the folks who are coming to visit, because they're coming down from Boston and we haven't seen them in a while because pandemic. So here's Ranger. Dexterity and Wisdom. Far from the bustle of cities, amid the trees of trackless forests and across wide plains, rangers keep their unending watch. They go to bars and smoke pipes ominously from a corner booth with a big hood up, and then their face is lit only by the pipe, and it looks cool because the cinematography in those movies was good. Wanderers of the wilderness, facing monsters that threaten the world, track their quarry, move stealthily, thanks to their connection with nature. Rangers can also cast spells. Rangers and talents are honed with a deadly focus, protecting the world from the ravages of monsters and tyrants. Rangers, still kind of a weird hybrid class. Aragorn did not cast spells. So we have like that the iconic ranger, that figure that inspires the class, does not have like a main class feature. I will be curious whether this set of subclasses, the new set of subclasses for Ranger, will include like non-casting Rangers and what they'll gain in exchange. You know, could I, as a Ranger, could I trade my spell casting feature for like a cooler animal companion buddy, like Oreo, as fearsome an animal companion as one could hope for, as he licks his arm. He's a good buddy. He's just not a combat buddy. So, D10s, strength and dexterity. So their saves are all front loaded, you know, in the front. They do not get a quote unquote mental stat. Aragorn did have healing through use of Kingsfoil, yeah. Does that count as magic in the world of Lord of the Rings, or would we call it like a medicine or nature check in 5e? I genuinely do not remember like the specifics of how Kingsfoil is used. Like they say the hands of the king are the hands of a healer. It's like, okay, does that mean that it's magic? Maybe. Like maybe that's a magic thing. It's a good point. Athletics, stealth, survival. I could also argue that the use of Kingsfoil thing would be a survival check. But it probably would be better off as nature or medicine. Multiclassing. So they get 3 skills from this list. So Bards also got 3 skills. I wonder if each class group gets the same. Every class in a class group gets the same number of proficiencies. Do the warriors all get 2, and then the experts all get 3, and so on. So we have proficiency bonus scaling looks the same. Expertise, favored enemy spellcasting, so they get expertise at level 1 here. They get 2 cantrips to start, and they get a level 2 spell to start. So they don't start casting at level 2. So they are spellcasters from level 1, but they are half casters. As folks say, their spells only go up to level 5. Fighting style at level 2. Subclass, extra attack. So they have a nothing at level 17, but they do have something at level 13. Light and medium armor and shields, simple and martial weapons. Scimitar, like you do. You need 13 dexterity and wisdom, proficiencies, armor, spell slots, expertise. Expertise in 2 skills, stealth and survival, are iconic choices. So expertise at level 1 would mean that your proficiency bonus for that skill goes from +2 to +3, which is not huge in the grand scale of things, but given where skill bonuses often are at level 1, handy. And it means that expertise is in place for you from the beginning. You're like, oh, you're just better at your expertise skills if you have the same stats as someone else than anybody who isn't from an expert class. So that helps have some more coherence across this class category, right? This expertise is a thing in common. I think that's actually a really smart choice. because it uses existing language in the expertise feature that's already in 5e, and it uses that as as like the iconic thing that this set of classes shares, because they have a lot of differences otherwise. Favorite enemy at level 1, you always have Hunter's Mark prepared, and it doesn't count against your spells. You don't have to concentrate on the spell once you cast it. It lasts for a full duration until you end it as a bonus action or until you're incapacitated. So you get Hunter's Mark, and it doesn't count against your concentration. If you don't have to concentrate on it, then I think that also means you don't have to make concentration checks if you take damage, which is handy if you're going to be an upfront ranger. So spellcasting, you have Cure Wounds, Guidance, Hunter's Mark, and Thorn Whip. Hunter's Mark is mentioned up here. Alternatively, you can prepare 2 level 0 spells and 2 first level spells. Interesting. 0 level the spells, they say, instead of cantrips. I wonder if that's a change or if it's just a typo. Any spell you prepare must be a primal spell and can be from any school of magic except evocation. So there are primal evocation spells. That makes sense based on what I remember from Druids. So we do have School of Magic restrictions for them. When you finish a long rest, you can replace. Again, these are your limitations. You get more spells. Prepared list, slots. Fighting style. You get a fighting style at level 2. One of these. So fighting style feats. Very sensibly, some of these things that acted like feats but were class features are now getting categorized as feats. So fighting style feats. Archery, defense, or 2-weapon fighting. When you gain a feat, fighting style feats are among your options even if you aren't a member of the warrior group. So feats are going to be being grouped by class group. And so, okay, here's some warrior feats that are like cool combat tricks. Rangers don't have access to all of those, but they do have access to fighting style feats. Ranger subclass, you get a subclass. The hunter is here. Others will appear in future articles. You get a feat at 4, extra attack at 5, subclass at 6. Roving, your speed increases by 10 when you aren't wearing heavy armor. The 3 hunters. So you also have a climb speed and a swim speed equal to your speed. Okay, that's very handy. So this gives rangers a lot of mobility and flexibility, especially in like different types of terrain. Getting a swim speed is really handy, especially if you're like fighting underground or fighting underwater or something. Having a climb speed changes your relationship to verticality, right? If you're a ranger and you have a climb speed, you can just go, okay, I'm going to go up to the wall and then I'm going to climb up, and your movement operates more normally, as opposed to you don't have a climb speed, so you need to make an athletics check to get up here. That's my understanding. Feat, more expertise, subclass, tireless. Primal forces now help fuel you on your journeys. Whenever you finish a short rest or a long rest, you can give yourself a number of temp hit points equal to plus 1d8 plus your proficiency bonus. Decrease exhaustion. If you are exhausted when you finish a short rest, your exhaustion reduces by 1. So getting rid of an exhaustion after a short rest is pretty great. That makes sense for this is somebody who is like outdoors. They're going to be prepared to and equipped to do like long, hard marches, doing extra because they're scouting or something, or they're staying up to do hunting. Cool. Feat at 12, Nature's Veil. As a bonus action, you can expend a spell slot and become invisible until the end of your next turn, as you invoke spirits of nature to magically hide yourself from view. So some extra stealth here. Feral senses. Ooh. How 19th century anthropology of us. Your connection with the forces of nature grants you blind sight within a range of 30 feet. And that's just, you don't have to spend anything, you just have it. Your Hunter's Mark now deals an extra 1d10 instead of 1d6, and that's at 18th level. So that's the former capstone. Feat at 19, Epic Boon at 20. Suggested prepared spells. Guidance, Thorn Whip, Cure Wounds, Hunter's Mark, Speak with Animals, so on and so forth. Subclasses Hunter. When you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike as part of an attack action, you do an extra 1d8 damage if it's missing any of its hit points. You can do this once per turn. So if somebody has already been hit and you have Hunter's Mark on them, you're going to be basically getting 3 damage. You're going to getting your weapon damage dice, the Hunter's Prey die, and you're going to get your Hunter's Mark die. So that's a lot of damage, single target, DPS, bring them down, going after weaknesses. Hunter's Lore. When a creature is marked by your Hunter's Mark, you know whether they have any immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and if the creature has any, you know what they are. Okay, so greater specialization, advantage of information on an individual opponent. Multi-attack. You now always have Conjure Barrage. Is it like Berserker Barrage? Berserker Barrage! That X-Men arcade game was very good. You can... Okay, I don't know what Conjure Barrage is. We'll have to find that out. Level 14, Superior Hunter's Defense. When you are hit by an attack roll, you can use reaction to halve the damage, and you can redirect the other half to one creature that you can see within 5 feet of you. So if you're like, you're fighting a bunch of enemies and they have like a trained animal and the animal comes after you and it's like, chomp, 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 chomp. And you like reach out and you hold their jaws open and then you slam them to the side. So you take less damage and then that creature like completely barrels over one of your attackers, right? As you do the damage to another creature within 5 feet. And you cannot reflect it back to the attacker, but you can redirect that damage to another enemy. That seems like a pretty fun feature. I think I like this a lot. Some of these changes or things that seemed like changes to me. I've not played a ranger at length in 5e. These feel like the designers did really try to refocus these abilities onto what is the fantasy of being a ranger as they're trying to articulate it, with the tirelessness and being able to like the hunter thing of redirecting an attack and the extra senses. Like this feels like they gave Ranger a lot of love, which according to a bunch of people, Ranger really needed a lot of love. This does not, you don't get a companion by default in this unless, I guess one of the spells could be like you could get the Find Familiar or Animal Companion from spell. I don't remember. So we got all of those. And now the Rouge. Primary ability, Dexterity. You know it. Sneak attack is still the thing. I would be surprised if it was not. And they get a class feature every level, 1 to 20. Some of them are just feats, and that's fine. But no empty slot at level 17. Maybe that's because they don't get spells. I'm curious whether those level 17s will fill in later for these other expert classes. Still a D8. Dex and Intelligence saves. You get skills. You get 4. So it is not the same number of skills for every class in a class group. Rogues get 4. Simple weapons, martial weapons that have the finesse property. So not all of them. So your rogue can use a rapier, but not a greatsword. I honestly think more weapons on the martial weapons list should have the finesse property, but that's between me and the Wizards designers. Having used a longsword, I can absolutely use a longsword with dexterity. How do I know this? Because I'm not very strong, and the torsion action of a longsword, yes, you can get it moving better with strength, but it requires a lot of precision. So D&D is not reality. It's fine. Thieves' Tools, light armor, 13 in dex for expertise in 2 skills. That's the one of the things you get at level 1. You also get sneak attack. Once on each of your turns, when you take the attack action, you can deal extra damage. This does not look like you need... okay, if one of the requirements are met. You have advantage, or if at least one of your allies is within 5 feet of the target, the ally is incapacitated, and you don't have disadvantage. So, similar requirements to the previous version. You have to be attacking with a finesse weapon or a ranged weapon. D6s. The extra damage type is the same. That's fine. And you get Thieves' Cant at level 1. You get Thieves' Cant and one other language you can choose from the standard languages and the rare languages tables. Cunning action. On your turn, you can take one of the follow actions as a bonus action. Dash, disengage, or hide. So that's pretty much the same to my recollection. Subclass at 3. Feat at 4. Uncanny dodge at 5. Use your reaction to halve the damage that you take with Uncanny dodge. You get expertise in more skills at 7. Feat at 8. Evasion. This is the kind of that great rogue feature where if you save, you take 0 instead of half, and you take half on a fail. Feat at 10, feat and subclass at 10. Reliable talent. When you make an ability check that uses one of your skill or tool proficiencies, you can treat the roll as a 9 or 10. You have to decide ahead of time. But you can say, oh, okay, I know that I've got a +8. You know, I'm at level 11 at that point. I probably got +8 to like +13 if it's expertise. This way you can just succeed at like DC 20 things because you're good at this. Why should you have to roll? Consistency, like this reliability, makes a lot of sense as a class feature for this type of expert. I like this a lot. Feat. Subtle strikes. Subtle. That B is just hiding there. You get advantage on any attack roll that targets a creature within 5 feet of one of your allies who isn't incapacitated. So basically, when you have the second thing that gives you sneak attack, you get the first thing that gives you sneak attack. So you really, really get to sneak attack. You get to sneak attack. Proficiency of wisdom and charisma saving throws. Elusive. No attack roll has advantage against you while you aren't incapacitated. And then 18th level, the capstone, former capstone. Luck. When you fail a d20 test, you can turn it into a 20. And you can use that once per short or long rest. And then an epic boon. So the thief subclass. This is like, the class used to be thief, right? So this makes sense as like the iconic subclass to include here. Okay, fast hands. So extra things you can do with your cunning action. You can take the search action. You can do sleight of hand. And also at 3rd level, you get second story work. You get a climb speed equal your speed. So they get climb speed like 4 levels earlier than the ranger does. And when you make the jump action, you can make a dexterity check instead of strength. Cool, that makes sense. Oreo is attempting to dig through the rug back there. If you can hear that, I apologize. It's very cute, sometimes a little annoying, but it's fine. He does not, I guess he has some digging impulses, but not so much that he's like destroyed our yard, for which I'm very grateful because we rent. Supreme Sneak. You have advantage on every dexterity check for stealth, provided you aren't wearing medium or heavy armor. So if you're cross-classing or if you've done something to get heavier armor, you can't use this feature unless maybe whatever it is that you've done that. Like if you have something that makes it so that medium armor counts as light armor, you could still use this, I think. Use Magic Device at level 10. You can attune up to 4 items. Whenever you use an item that expends charges on a roll of a 6 on a d6, you can use something without expending charges. That's pretty cool. And you can use spell scrolls that do cantrips or level 1s. You can try higher ones, but you have to make a check. Thieves' Reflexes. You can now take a second bonus action on your turn, provided it is a cunning action. And you can use this feature on a number of turns equal to your proficiency bonus, and you get them all back on a long rest. Cool. And now, Feats. The agony of the Feats. Hopefully not too agonizing. So, I feel like the rogue is like the least changed of these, from my recollection. The Ranger might be the most changed. I think the change in how Bardic Inspiration works is pretty substantial, and I like it, but some of the other things maybe didn't change as much. The other big change with Bard is how their spell situation operates, in terms of you are on the Arcane spell list, but then you gain access to other spells using this and this class feature, and then maybe more from your subclass. So the way that bards are versatile with regards to their spell selection has changed, but they do still feel like they have that versatility. Like, if someone said, "Hey, Mike, let's do a One D&D playtest," I would be excited to play a bard because of these differences. I would also be excited to play a ranger because I feel like they have become... I have a clearer sense of what they mean rangers to be, and that mechanically that class is now situated to realize that fantasy more effectively than maybe it was before. I still want an animal buddy. I'm guessing that at least one of the the other UA subclasses that they come out with over the following months and year will be a animal buddy subclass, because in one of the everything books they reworked Beastmaster Ranger, right, to like, okay, like your buddy uses a whole different set of rules. I'm also fond of MCDM's Beastheart class, which I'm going to look up real quick. I have not gotten to play one yet because the games that I've been playing in have all been are all using D&D Beyond, and you cannot basically you can't use custom 20 level classes on D&D Beyond. You can use custom subclasses. I could theoretically rework it as a custom like fighter class, but that was so much work to like input all the things that it seemed like it would be a headache, and that it would be a headache to use. Beastheart is much more like the 80s fantasy movie Beastmaster type of class, which is like a step farther than a Beastmaster Ranger. So we are at just over an hour, and there are 20-something pages of feats. I don't think I'm going to read through all of the feats. I'm just going to scroll. Here is spell lists, ritual. So they say whether something is a ritual in the spell list here. That's handy. We have just a bunch of spells. So it sure looks here like they're just saying, okay, all the spells work the same way. Here's the new list. And the rules glossary. So let's look through some feats and maybe some of these epic boons, and then take a look through the like rules encyclopedia stuff. And then I think we'll probably be done for this impromptu stream. So feats, each feat has a level. To take a feat, your level must equal or exceed the feat's level. So again, people have been saying like, oh, look, here's D&D copying from Pathfinder again, which, yeah, a little bit. Pathfinder's got some cool design elements that make sense. There are prerequisites sometimes. Sometimes it's a class or a class group. If a feat is repeatable, you can take it more than once. Bonus feats at level 20. So after level 20, you could maybe get extra feats. Here's some XP framework for how you might do that, rather than here's epic level rules for levels 21 through 30. Here's another way that you can give advancement to someone if you want to keep playing at that really, really high level. So ability score improvement, you need to be at least 4th level. That tends to be when people get that grant of feat, but it means that if you get a 1st level feat, you can't use ability score improvement, right? Because you need to be 4th level to do this. And you can't increase ability scores above 20 here. Actor. So this is actually a feat I took with my bard character. So mimicry, you bump up your charisma. When you're disguised as a person, you get advantage on charisma performance to convince people you are that person, and then you can do the mimicry thing. Yep. So athlete, you get to improve a physical stat. Athlete gives you a climb speed. You can pop up from prone with 5 feet of movement instead of, I think, half of your movement. And you have advantage on any ability checks for the jump action. So this is jump action. And I saw other stuff that was like the search action. So I think we have some codification of action options here. I think that may mean that some things that were previously skill checks, where you take an action to do a skill check, are now actions of their own, which is okay, this allows for some streamlining of codification in terms of you get blah for the jump action. Charger, go forth and smush. When you take the dash action, your speed increases, and you do a charge attack. Crossbow expert, stat bonus, you ignore loading quality. You can fire your crossbow in melee, and when you make an attack with a light weapon, so you can dual wield crossbows if they're light crossbows. Pew pew. And then somehow you reload, even though you're dual wielding. You reload with your teeth. And you shoot. Probably not. Defensive duelist. You get dex, and somebody hits you. You can react to add your proficiency bonus to defend. I think that's how that works anyway. Dual wield. You can treat a non-light weapon. Okay, so if you have dual wielder, you can dual wield something that doesn't have light, as long as it is not two-handed. And you can draw or stow weapons that are not two-handed. So you can quick draw 2 things at once with the dual wielder feat. Durable, you get a bonus to con. You have advantage on death saving throws. And as a bonus action, you can expend 1 of your hit dice and regain hit points equal to the roll. Do you add Constitution to your hit dice when you use them in a short rest? I thought that you did. So speedy recovery, you're sacrificing that bonus from your con in order to be able to do it as a bonus action in scene, right? Elemental Adept. And spells you cast ignore resistance to that damage type. Dual wield, if you have the dual wield feat, does not have to be Florentine, because you can treat a non-light weapon in your other hand as if it had the light property, which then lets you make that extra attack. So I think what that means is that you could fight with 2 what they call long swords if you have the dual wielder feat, and use a bonus action to do an extra attack. That's my understanding. What they call long swords, I don't think should be called long swords. Long swords that I know of are a 2-handed weapon because you do that torque thing. You do that same thing with great swords. Great swords are a 2-handed weapon. Long swords should be a 2-handed weapon. They don't have something that's listed as an arming sword, and it's fine. At least they don't say that long swords weigh 8 pounds anymore. This has been a small bout of sword nerdery. All right, so now we got epic boons. So epic boons are 20th level feats. Class group. Epic boon of combat prowess. When you miss with a melee attack, you hit instead. When you use this, you can't use it again until you roll initiative. Dimensional travel. You cast Misty Step without using a spell slot, if you're an expert or a mage. Energy resistance. And whenever you finish a rest, you can change what you're resistant to. That's very handy. Fortitude, you just get a bunch of hit points. And when you regain hit points, you get extra equal to your con modifier. So that's like even when you get healed. So that is a lot of fortitude. Epic boon of irresistible offense, expert or warrior. The damage you deal always ignores resistance. That's very cool. Epic boon of luck. You can so once per roll initiative or short or long rest, you can add a d10 and add it to a roll. Now, this says immediately after you roll a d20, not after you fail. So this is different from the Bardic Inspiration as a reaction, but it does not take your reaction to do so with the Epic Boon of Luck. Expert or Mage for Night Spirit. While in dim light or darkness, you can become invisible as an action. You retain invisibility after you take an action or a reaction. Now this is take an action, not take an attack. Peerless Aim. If you make a ranged attack and miss, you can cause it to hit instead, which is like the combat prowess one. So you can have Peerless Aim or combat prowess. So if it's for melee or for ranged, you don't get both in one. Epic Boon of Recovery. So you can use a bonus action to regain a number of hit points equal to half of your maximum. Once you use this, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. And you succeed on every death saving throw that isn't a roll of 1. Wow. Very cool. Epic Boon of Skill Proficiency. You are proficient in all skills, and you don't even have to be an expert to do so. Speed. Expert or Warrior. Your speed increases by 30 feet. Imagine taking this if you are already a monk and have gained speed as part of class features. Preposterous. I love it. Epic Boon of Undetectability. You cannot be seen or heard while you are hidden. Unfettered. You can take a bonus action to disengage, which also ends grappled and the restrained conditions on you. And then, so those are the epic boons. Fighting styles. So Archery is +2 bonus to attack with ranged. This is again good because of bounded accuracy, compared to like 3E when like attack bonuses just would stack skyscraper high. Defense, while you're wearing armor, you have +1 bonus to armor class, just straight up. Fighting style, dueling. So when you have a melee weapon and no other weapons, you get +2 damage rolls because you do haha, which you probably want to use your hand for defense sometimes, in addition to the balancing for haha, because it turns out that fighting for your life is different from Olympic and collegiate fencing. Olympic and collegiate fencing, incredible sport. It's not combat. And it's farther away from combat than other things, and that's fine. Could I beat an Olympic or collegiate fencer at their own sport? Absolutely not. It is not the skill that I have. Fighting style protection. Okay, so there are other fighting styles than the ones that were listed that the ranger could get. This is notable. Protection, you can use reaction to interpose your shield, and you give a -2 penalty on the attack roll. So when they attack and hit, you can use your reaction to give them -2. You have to be wearing a shield, so it does not impose disadvantage, but you can use it after they hit, but you only give them a -2. So you're only going to be able to turn a slight hit, or like just if they just barely hit, you can make them miss. 2-weapon fighting. When you make an extra attack of the light weapon property, you add your ability modifier to the damage. So if you have if you have this 2-weapon fighting style, and you have that dual wielder feat, you could be using 2 weapons that are not light but are not two-handed, and you get your ability modifier on damage, as well as being able to use it with a bonus action as your extra attack. So if you want your like 2 scimitars, I don't remember if scimitars are light. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Grappler. You have advantage on grappling and fast wrestling, and you can punch and grab. Okay, well that's nice. Great Weapon Master. 4th level requirement. Cleave. So Cleave used to be a feat in third ed, right? After you score a critical hit or reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you can take 1 attack with the same weapon as a bonus action. Not for free, but as a bonus action. So this is implicitly for people who are doing 1 big weapon, right? Because you're using the weight of a weapon. So when you have a big weapon, you're ostensibly not using a bonus action to get an extra attack, because that's more a 2-weapon thing. If you're using, I think there's one of the pole arms, if you have that, if you have something, if you have like a feat or a class feature or something, you can like make an attack with the butt, but that's at lower damage. So this is, boom, I make a big hit, and then I can use my bonus action to get an extra hit. And when you hit a creature with a heavy weapon as an attack action, you can cause this to deal extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus once per turn. So you need 4th level or higher, you get the Cleave ability, you increase your strength score, and once per turn you do that extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So if you're at level 4, you're doing a +2, and you get the Cleave. At higher levels, +3 through +6. So this will let you stack on even more damage. Heavy armor, but this is just heavy armor training. Heavy armor master. So heavy armor master used to be -3 damage, but now any bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing is reduced by your amount equal to your proficiency bonus. So they're moving toward proficiency bonus as the scaling for a lot of these things. Inspiring Leader gives temp hit points. Keen Mind, you can take the study action as a bonus action. Light Armor, so that's not a light armor mastery. Mage Slayer, you could do Concentration Break. Polearm Master. So, okay, here's that polearm thing. So polearm distinct from Grey Weapon Master. Reactive Strike. When you're holding a weapon that has heavy and reach, you can use a reaction to make an attack against someone that enters your reach. Great, so you can brace and make somebody impale themselves on you when they're coming after you. Ritual Casting, Resilient, you gain proficiency. So as a feat, you can increase an ability score and then gain proficiency in saves of that ability. Sentinel seems like it's the same thing. Or this is the halt thing. When a creature, you can make an opportunity attack against that creature. Okay, even if they take disengage. Sharpshooter. Ignore cover. Firing in melee. Long shots. Handy. Shield Master. You can shield bash. And you can interpose shield. Right. Okay. Speedster. That's a superhero term. Your speed increases by 10. You dash over difficult terrain. Okay, this used to be called like mobility, I think, in the 2014 edition. Warcaster, reactive spell. You can make a spell instead. You can use a spell instead of an opportunity attack if you have Warcaster. That's pretty fun. So spell lists. I'm just going to zip through these. I don't know the spell lists well enough to be like, yes, this is now a level 5 spell. I used to be a level 6 spell. That's not who I am. So rules glossary. So this is like 6 or 7 pages. Ability checks is one of the 3 types of D20 tests. Rules often call for an ability check. When the outcome is uncertain and narratively interesting, the dice determine the results. This is really important. I see often in 5e that people just roll dice all the time. Like, I want to make a blah. Or the GM will call for rolls when there's not, either there is not a chance of meaningful failure, there's not a meaningful chance of failure, nor is the outcome, should the outcome be especially uncertain. What I give to you, potential 5e DMs, and this extends to other systems, but I think especially 5e, sometimes it's really cool to say you just do it. You don't need to roll for this. You just know this. You just do it. Of course you can do this. Now, there are some class features, like the rogue thing that we saw, that means that you may not want to do that all the time. But based on the actual plays that I have listened to and watched, I think there are a number of times when it may make sense and be cool to the player to say, you don't have to roll for that. You can do this. Can the level 7 rogue climb up a normal castle wall when it's midnight and there's a light, like the castle is lightly guarded? Yeah, your level 7 rogue should probably just be able to do that. Now, maybe you roll to see how quickly they do it instead of can they do it, or can they do it without getting discovered. You just go, okay, you can do this. You can get up there without anybody noticing you. Maybe then you're just rolling under the possibility that it could take longer, or they could be even faster. And like, oh, okay, well, you're going to get up there fast enough that then here's some other boon, or you're up there in time to something, and you give them that bonus for going ahead and making the roll and doing really well. So this DC range, easy is 10, medium is 15, a level 1 character rolling with a good stat at a thing that they have proficiency in, they're going to have about as equal of a chance of hitting a medium DC as a character with a stat of 10 and no proficiency would at an easy. That's the scaling, right? At level 1. Armor training, you have disadvantage if you don't have the training. Artisan's tools, attack action. Weapon or unequipped. You can equip or unequip one weapon before or after any attack you make as part of this action, even if the attack is with an unarmed strike. Okay, so you can switch weapons. That's cool. Moving between, if you move on your turn, you can use some of all your movement between the attacks. Yes. Attack roll. The attack roll is one of the 3 types of D20 tests. So ability check, attack roll, and then saving throw is the other type of D20 test, right? I would guess. Arcane Spells. Okay, here are some new spells. New version of Barkskin. If you have Blind Sight, so this is just like a rules grab bag, right? So ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. That is the 3rd type of D20 test. Again, D20 test was the term used for what you can use your Bardic Inspiration on. Creature types, climb speed, okay, so climb speed can be used to move on a vertical surface without expending the extra movement normally associated with climbing. So that's why we have the classes that gain the climb speed. Dash action. You get a bonus move, difficult terrain. Every foot of movement costs 1 extra foot, so moving 5 foot through difficult terrain costs 10 feet, yes. A space is difficult terrain for a teacher if the space contains any of the following: a creature that isn't tiny, furniture that is small or larger, heavy snow, heavy undergrowth, liquid. So they're giving you examples of what difficult terrain might be. And we're getting just kind of a terminology. This is like a glossary, rules glossary. Divine spells, exhaustion. So every level of exhaustion. Oh, okay. Instead of this is what happens at 1, this is what happens at 2, this is what happens at 3 and 4 and 5. Now, when you make a D20 test, you subtract your exhaustion levels from the D20 roll. Subtract your exhaustion level from the spell save DC of any spell you cast. So when you're exhausted, the spells that you do on other people are easier to resist. And finishing your long rest removes 1 level of exhaustion. I like this. It is way easier to remember and implement. Okay, you're exhausted. What happens? You subtract your exhaustion from your attacks, and you subtract your exhaustion from your spell save DC. D20 tests. So that's attacks, skill checks, and saving throws. I like this. Expertise, we already looked at that. Fly speed. Gaming set. I like gaming sets. I have many of them. Grappled condition. I don't care about grappling. Grappling has so frequently in D&D just been silly. New version of guidance. Once a creature rolls the die for the spell, that creature cannot benefit from this spell again until they finish a long rest. So you can't just like guidance on everything, which I see sometimes. Yeah, ditto Triffity Mats. I really like this version of how to handle exhaustion. It also makes me feel less bad about handing out levels of exhaustion because it's not quite so overwhelming. Related to how exhaustion I think used to work, which is like one level of exhaustion would give you disadvantage on skill rolls, I think. So help, you can assist an ability check. It would expire. You must be near enough to assist verbally or physically. DM has final say on whether resistance is possible. It does not say whether you need... Oh, choose one of your skill proficiencies and an ally who can see or hear you. You gain advantage on the next ability check that uses that chosen skill. So this says to help, you need to be proficient in the skill. Or you can assist an attack roll. You momentarily distract an enemy, granting advantage on the next attack roll. So when you take the help action, so help action, hide action, heroic inspiration. When you have heroic inspiration, so this says heroic inspiration as opposed to bardic inspiration. That makes sense because if you have one thing that's called inspiration and then you have one thing that's called bardic inspiration, that can be confusing. So what was inspiration now, I believe, is called heroic inspiration, also called inspiration. So they're building in backwards compatibility here. You give yourself advantage on a d20 test. So that's skill, attack, saving throw. You decide to do so immediately after rolling the d20. So not after failing, but after rolling. So you don't have to use it before you roll. And you gain heroic inspiration if you roll a 1. That 1 must be must be used not on a d20 that was rerolled or discarded. This heroic inspiration represents a character's resolve to do better after fumbling an attempt. Yes, thank you. Good. In the old One D&D, you would get heroic inspiration if you rolled a 20, which was your reward for succeeding is that you can succeed more, and your reward for failing is fuck you. In the RPG dungeon world, you get XP when you fail. That will help you feel better about failing, and it can encourage players to go ahead and roll when they have a lower chance of succeeding. Is this as good as that? Maybe not. But it is, I think, a step in the right direction. You can only have one heroic inspiration, however, and if something gives you heroic inspiration when you have it, you give that inspiration to another character in your group. Would I maybe replace heroic inspiration with something where it could be pooled slightly or something else? Maybe. But I think this is probably better than the way inspiration works in the rules right now. When you are hidden, you are concealed, you get surprise. If you are hidden when you roll initiative, you have advantage on the roll. Attack rolls against you have disadvantage, and your attack rolls have advantage. So if you have the hidden condition, it ends when you make a sound louder than a whisper. An enemy finds you, you make an attack roll, you cast a spell with verbal component, or you aren't heavily obscured or behind any cover. So if your cover goes away, you are no longer hidden. Hide action. Hide action is always DC 15. On a success, you are hidden. So this clarifies how that works. Incapacitated. You can't take actions or reactions. Concentration is broken. You are surprised. Influence. When you take with the influence action, you can try to influence another creature to do something you request or command. So there's this codification of here are the not standard attack, do spell, make saving throw things that you can do with an action. Action is only used on characters controlled by the DM, so you cannot use influence on a fellow PC. It isn't mind control. You can't force them to do something that's counter their alignment or repugnant. This action has 3 attitudes, main parts: attitude, interaction, and a charisma check. Attitude. So this is like, what's their social stance toward you to begin with? Indifferent, friendly, hostile. Interaction. When you take the influence action, describe your behavior. If the interaction is especially suited to their desires and outlook, you might get advantage on the subsequent check, or might temporarily shift a hostile creature to indifferent or indifferent to friendly. So you might become more likely to succeed, or you might change your, you might say, position. So you might go from a desperate situation to a risky situation. Eyebrow waggle. It's a good system. So then you make the ability check. You make charisma, animal handling, deception, intimidation, or persuasion, depending on the interaction. Animal handling is reserved for beasts and monstrosities. Each request or demand requires a different check. So you can't just, cool, I rolled a 20, I rolled a nat 20 to convince the Duke to X, and now the Duke will do whatever I want because I've magically turned him from indifferent to not just friendly, but you are basically in charge of the Duke somehow. So I think that makes sense. Is it great to necessarily ask for roll after roll after roll after roll when you're doing this? Maybe not, but maybe it is really handy if the players are just getting totally carried away trying to steamroll an NPC. So if they're indifferent, a 10, they'll do it on a 10 as long as no risk or sacrifices. On a 20, they'll accept a minor risk. If they're friendly, on a 10, they'll accept a minor risk. On a 20, they'll accept a significant risk. For a hostile creature, on a DC 10, they won't come after you. On a DC 20, they will do something as long as no risk or sacrifice is involved. So basically we have, at the very worst, they will do harm to you. On a DC 10 for hostile, they will not help you, but they won't harm you. And then beyond that, they'll help you as long as there's no risk or sacrifice. They'll help you as long as, even if there is a minor risk, they'll help you even if there is a significant risk. So there we have the set of results, and depending on their attitude, that sets where the roll range is calibrated to, right? If they are hostile, you're calibrated all the way toward more negative reactions. Invisible, a condition. Jump, the action. Your speed has to be greater than 0. Make a DC strength check, acrobatics or athletics. So strength acrobatics to do a big jump. So this makes strength more important even for dex characters, unless you have a way of getting to roll dexterity instead. I suppose. If you don't move, you have disadvantage. On a failed check, you leap 5 feet horizontally or vertically, so you still move some. On a successful check, the check's total determines the distance in feet that you can clear horizontally on a long jump, or half that total if you're jumping vertically, round down. So if you roll a 20 on a vertical check, you can jump 10 feet. Right? This doesn't expend your movement, but the distance you clear can't exceed your speed. So you can jump 10 feet straight up on a roll of a 20 on a jump action, vertical. On a roll of a 20 long jump, you can jump across a 20-foot gap. That feels decently heroic. I don't remember if this is like the way that the jump rolls used to be, but whatever. I think, if you want a grittier game, you can probably calibrate this down, right? If you want to be more like, quote unquote, realistic in your game with wizards and dragons. Light is a weapon property. You can, yes, that's fine. Long rest, sleep for 6 hours, and no more than 2 hours of light activity. Benefits of rest, all hit points, you regain all hit dice. If your hit point maximum was reduced, it goes back to normal. If your ability score is reduced, you can't benefit from more than one long rest in a 24-hour period, and you have to be at least 1 hit point. If a long rest is interrupted, you don't get anything, you have to start over. You do magic as an action. You do move, breaking up your move, that's fine. Yes, climbing and swimming. Some creatures have special speed, climb, fly, or swim. You have to choose one of your speeds. That's totally reasonable. That makes sense. If you both have a speed and a fly speed and you take the dash action on your turn, you could use your speed for the move and then your fly speed for the dash, right? So you can't switch movement modes. Musical instrument, primal spells, search as an action. So what I would want in a 1D&D GM screen is, here are the special actions, as I would call search and jump and things like that. Here's the chart for here's how they work. You know, insight gets state of mind, medicine gives their ailment, something like that. So search, so this is like some of the medicine check has been turned into a search action. Search, but investigate is not on here. When you take a search action, you make a wisdom check. So they're grouped by stat, maybe, is what we're doing here. So wisdom is for searching, perception, insight, medicine, survival. Slowed, and then study action, that's going to be intelligence, right? When you study, you use arcana, history, investigation, nature, or religion. So we're just grouping this type of check. So these are the knowledge areas. Traps, ciphers, riddles, and gadgetry. Swim speed, tool proficiency, teleportation, tremor sense. Unarmed strike is 1 plus your strength modifier. Grappling, I don't care about grappling. So, expert classes and a little bit of changing how some of the spells work, some rewording of some of these actions. So let's go, actually, I'm going to go back here. Let's count up the extra actions. So we have study, search, move is not an action, magic is an action, jump is an action, influence, hide, help, and that's it. So attack would be an action, right? So, yeah, all right. So I just got distracted because they added the spell things. So dash is an action. Attack is an action. So there's like 8 to 10 total types of actions. So those are the moves you can make if we're using like a Powered by the Apocalypse framework. It's not so many that it feels totally unwieldy. I think, move, attack, cast spell, those kind of get set aside as like major actions. And then we have like skill kind of dash would then be an action. So move, dash, attack, cast spell. And then we have the help, hide, influence, jump, and the other ones like that. So I think grouping these actions, like, okay, here's doing stuff with the wisdom skills, doing stuff with the intelligence skills. That's some sensible consolidation in terms of not having to look up whole different things all the time. I mostly like this. I will be curious to see and hear what other people think about this. If y'all have, if you get to read this and you're coming by another stream some other time, I would be very happy to hear what you think about this. This video is going to then end up on YouTube. I'm going to try and give it like a nice title with some text or whatever to like maybe get it in front of some other people who are into D&D stuff so that they might maybe see the other things that I do and stuff like that. I've been watching lots of YouTube videos about people talking about D&D as I make my like retraining. I'm getting back into shape as a DM, which is mostly stare and turn pages because I'm reading, as opposed to like da-da-da, I like jogging up and down the stairs in Philadelphia or something like that. But I do have my treadmill over there, and I will be doing that as some exercise for today. But with that, it is almost noon. I have been going for almost an hour and 45 minutes. So I think that is going to be that. But we did hit 100 followers. So what I'm going to say is that my follower goal was set to 100, and we have hit it. So I'm going to do a giveaway. And what I think that is going to be is, for everybody who is here, if you would like to enter the giveaway, just type giveaway into the chat and submit it to the chat. And I will select one person who can get their choice of Geekomancy, Celebromancy, Attack the Geek, or Hexamancy. So if you don't have any of the books in that Re-Raise series, start with Geekomancy. And if you have some of them, but not all of them, then I will send you an ebook of whichever one of those 4 that you don't have. So if you are so inclined, if you have already bought all of these books in the new edition or an old edition, you have my deep, deep thanks, and I'm very grateful. But what I've been doing for these follower giveaways is throwing out some ebooks. And I would say if you have all of the Re-Raise books, but you don't have the Genrenauts Season 1 collection, I would be very happy to send you that in ebook as well. So I'm going to go to YouTube and find the Valorword playlist that I made so that I can link it here in chat while I give folks the opportunity to type the word giveaway into chat if they are interested in potentially getting one or another of my ebooks from stuff that I have created. So that's that. Here is the Valorword playlist. Nope. So if you like what I have to say about D&D or game design, or you've liked my video game streams, I would invite you to go over to YouTube and take a look at Valorword, which is a Court of Blades actual play series where I am serving as the Dancing Master, aka DM, aka GM, in a custom setting created with the players. The players of that game are Marie Bilodeau, Primi Mohammed, and then my 2 co-hosts, Brandon O'Brien and Greg Ray A. Wilson. We made this setting together initially using the game Ex Novo by Shark Bomb Games, which is like a settlement/city making collaborative GM-less game. And I've done a lot of like GM prep and world building streams. I did one of them with Brandon, and we had a great time talking about like magic and architecture and weather and things. And patrons over at patreon.com/speculate get even more stuff. You're going to get like behind the scenes stuff, like here's a write-up of the holidays of Valorword, and here's other stuff. And I'm going to keep on adding more stuff like that. In fact, today I'm going to be working on Patreon stuff and cross-posting the most recent episode of Fractal Spire, and then maybe I'll throw up some other stuff or schedule a post with extra Valorword stuff to go up sometime in the next week. It looks like we're going to be playing Valorword next the third week of October. So it'd be a little bit of time between now and then. My hope is that I will be able to do like a GM prep stream sometime between now and then. I'll want to do that to refresh my memory. I have to build the dossier of potential missions to send to the players. Ideally, I want to build that dossier earlier, send it to the players so that they can pick which one they want to do, and then I can prep that mission, as opposed to, here are 5 different things you could do, you get to decide what you want to do, and then I have to react to them and to be able to run any of these 4 or 5 things that I'm suggesting. the way that the last session from last weekend worked, there wasn't really time for me to give them the dossier at the end of play because we had like a slightly truncated first mission kind of a situation. So that's where I am with Valorword. It's been a lot of fun. We've had some scheduling difficulties, but I feel like I have some clarity of what the next few sessions look like, and then we're going to be able to build on that. And Brandon and Greg and I have been doing some additional scheming, plotty fingers, which hopefully y'all will be able to hear about soon when we're ready to do some announcements. Additionally, you should definitely check out Girl by Moonlight Fractal Spire, which is Speculate's other game that's been going for longer. That one is being run by Brandon O'Brien as the stage manager. We're using Girl by Moonlight by Andrew Gillis, which is a forthcoming cross-genre magical girl game that we're all having a lot of fun with, even if the world that we've made is very rough and intense and hard on us. And again, Court of Blades is a game by a couple of Drakes, aka Navi and Sean Drake, and they've been helping us out with like promotional material and art and stuff. And then Evil Hat provided some sponsorship funds for Fractal Spire, and so we're grateful to the Drakes and to Evil Hat for their respective types of support. We're having a lot of fun. If I had my druthers, I would clear people's schedules and we would play many, many more TTRPGs on Speculate. 3 to 5 shows per week, and we'd have, a bigger staff, and we'd have dedicated production staff, and like we're just not at that point yet. It's the 3 co-hosts. We have the Strange Friends crew as kind of the ongoing cast, first from Cindered Seal and now for Fractal Spire, that I'm very happy to be a part of, and Brandon has been GMing for, but may not necessarily always be GMing for the Strange Friends. We are looking for some opportunities to maybe mix that up. I'd love to run a game for the Strange Friends in public. I've run stuff not on stream. They've been playing Genrenauts Playtest with me that's like not broadcast, not recorded, and giving me great feedback on that. Because we have some more people and potentially some different people, I'm going to reiterate my offer. Because we just hit 100 followers, thank you again to Iori, aka Kusano Iori, if they are still here. Otherwise, that is a decent chance that they've gone to bed, which is very reasonable. If you are here and you do not own... Okay, hi Iori. You're welcome to go to bed if you need to. Don't stay up on my account. If you are watching live and do not have any of Genrenauts Season 1 in ebook, or the ebook of Geekomancy, Celebromancy, Attack the Geek, or Hexamancy, you can type giveaway into the chat and be entered into the giveaway. No one has entered thus far, so currently your chances are very good of winning if you do not have any of those books. The Geekomancy and that series, these are all going to be the new editions that I've released this summer into the fall. Yeah, go for it, Triffity Mats. Your restraint is appreciated, but... Oh yeah, absolutely. This is ebook, so the ebooks will go anywhere that my email will be received and not caught by someone's spam filter. So yeah, again, this is the ebook edition. I'm not... As Iori said, shipping is a nightmare internationally, which is a big bummer because I know that I have readers around the world, not just readers who are like friends and colleagues that I know who are in places that are not the U.S. But yeah, so I'm going to give another minute or so to see if anybody else who is watching would like to enter, and I'm going to pull up another Twitch page to see who else is streaming, to see if there's anyone I want to go raid. Okay, I don't think any of the people that I know personally are streaming, so I don't know that I have anyone to go and raid. And the only other communities that I know are channels where they have over 100 viewers, so they're not necessarily in a position to need a raid. All right, I am going to pull out one of my very fancy dice. Only if you really feel like it, Triffity Mats. But that is a very generous offer. So if that is the case, I will talk for another couple of seconds to give someone else the chance to enter the giveaway if they like. If you are reticent about entering a giveaway because you want other people to be able to win things, I would say do not worry. I love to hear from you. There will be other giveaways. I'm going to have to figure out what to set my next goal to be. And all right, so I've done my vamping. So it looks like I will be following up with Iori to see which book they would like to have. And I want to say thank you to Triffity Mats for being very gracious, and to Triffid and Iori, and to Cafe Claire for hanging out, and to everybody else who has been around and lurking, and to everybody who is watching later on, either on the Twitch VOD or on YouTube. So thanks for joining me as I make this kind of movement back into the vast D&D ecosystem in an attempt to reconnect with this bigger part of the hobby and, talk to / yes, unfortunately, the text chat in Twitch is sans serif. So IORI indeed. There are no L's in their name. However, you should fight them on in Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't have that command on this channel. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Iori, you know where to reach me. I will get in touch. And otherwise, I think I will not stream this Sunday, but I will be back next week with more stuff, and probably balancing between video game streams and game design / game prep, other TTRPG discussion things, because I had initially been focusing on video games so that it would be easier, because I just have the game to be able to talk about. But I've had so much fun with the writing streams and talking about craft of writing and gaming, and this game design or campaign prep stuff, that I probably will keep on doing those. So that's all of that. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. Happy time zone, and I'll see you later. And ending.